Welcome to another week of Al-Haraka, Al-Hussainiya, where this week, inshallah, we're commemorating the tragedies of Safar. The month of Safar is upon us, which means there are a few tragedies and a few commemorations. The first of those commemorations and tragedies is that of Sayeda Ruqaya, alayhi salam, the daughter of Imam Al-Hussain, alayhi salam. Just a quick one for the sisters. The curtains are going to be opened now, just so that we could see the lecture, inshallah, during the majlis. So the first of two nights, inshallah, we're commemorating in this hall. We would like to, of course, thank Al-Khoi Foundation, Mu'assasat Al-Khoi, for opening their doors and welcoming us in order for us to commemorate the martyrdom of Sayyida Ruqaya alayhi salam. But more importantly, tomorrow is the martyrdom of Imam Al-Hasan, the brother of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam. So inshallah, we encourage all the brothers and sisters, those who are here, to spread the word for those to come, inshallah, tomorrow and commemorate and remember the Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam, an important figure within Islamic history and of course a prominent position within the Imams as well. So just a couple of announcements before we start and welcome Al-Hajj Mustafa to the stage. If I can kindly ask the brothers on the side who are leaning on the walls, if I can just kindly ask you to come into the carpet into the middle, and those brothers who are at the back, if I can kindly ask you to come forward to make space for anyone coming in. So once again, just a quick announcement to the brothers on the side. If I can kindly ask you to move into the middle, into the carpet, and those who are at the back can move forward. Likewise with the sisters, if you want to move as far forward as you want, it's totally up to you. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Al-Hajj Mustafa Masood with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Imam Al-Hasan and Imam Al-Hussain, please recite a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. To hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam Al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif, please recite a third and loudest Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. السلام على الشيب الخضيب السلام على الخد التريب السلام على البدن السليب السلام على الرأس المرفوع. When one comes to study the revolution of Abi Abdullah Al-Hussain alayhi afdalus salati was salam, specifically his latter life in the last 6 months or so, one can divide this part into 3 different parts. The first being from the departure of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam in Rajab from the city of his grandfather Medina towards Mecca and then later on towards Iraq. After being diverted away from Kufa, he ends up in Karbala. This is the first part. The second part, we can say, is the part in which Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam gets into Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram in the year 61 after Hijrah, up until the day of Ashura. This part, of course, has some events before the actual day of Ashura, and specifically the main events take place on the day of Ashura itself. The third part, if we were to look at the revolution of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, is from Karbala towards Kufa and towards Sham. As in this part, when the family of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi afdalus salati wassalam are taken as captives, as sabaya, from Karbala towards Kufa and later on towards Sham and then back to Karbala. When people study the life of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, when it comes to the day of Ashura, they concentrate on the first two parts, as in when the revolution starts in Medina, when Muawiyah dies in the month of Rajab, and the famous line of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, someone like me, mithli la yubayi' mithlah, someone like me does not give allegiance to someone like Yazid. This is the start of the revolution until he goes towards Mecca. In Mecca there are many sermons that he delivers. There are letters written from the people of Basra as well as the people of Kufa inviting Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. There Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam lets people know about his revolution, lets people know that Yazid is someone that's corrupt, someone that's a hypocrite, someone that's an alcoholic, someone that kills innocent people. And the people of Kufa, after inviting him, he sends his ambassador, Muslim ibn Aqil. This part is very common and familiar to most of you. The second part, which I mentioned, from the day he reaches Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram up until the day of Ashura, again, is also very known to us, especially when we recite the Maqtal on the day of Ashura. The final part, which I mentioned, after the demise of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, up until the captives return to Medina, there are some questions that have been left unanswered. Yes, we know of the tragedies that take place, but we do not know of the exact tragedies maybe that take place. We do not know whose head was taken on a spear. We, yes, might have heard a few stories here and there, but there are still misconceptions when it comes to the burial, for example, of the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. As in today, the people of Egypt claim that the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam is buried in Egypt, in Cairo. You go to Cairo today, there's a mosque named after Sayeda Zainab alayhi salam, as well as a mosque named after Imam Al-Hussein, Masjid Ra's Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the people of Egypt claim to say that the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam is buried in Cairo. Others come forward and say no, the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi afdal salati wassalam is buried in Sham. There are narrations that the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam is buried in Medina. There are narrations that the head of Imam Al-Hussein is buried in Najaf. There are narrations that mention the head of Imam Al-Hussein is buried in Halab. There are narrations that mention the head of Imam Al-Hussein buried in other parts of Sham. But of course, the most common narration, the narration that the Shia, Ithna Ashari, and our scholars take, as Sharif al-Murtada mentions in his Rasail, is that the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam was returned by his family and was buried in Karbala. In today's lecture, I want to study the journey of the head of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam and concentrate on this third part, which I mentioned is after the day of Ashura. What took place after the day of Ashura? Did the family of Imam Al-Hussein leave straight away as captives, or did they stay a few days in Karbala? When they went to Kufa, how many days did they stay in Kufa? How many days did it take them to reach Sham and Yazid? And how many days for them to return? Because there are narrations that mention, the most common saying, that they returned on the day of Arba'in, the 20th of Safar. May Allah grant us the ziyarah of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Arba'in. Others come forward and say no, they were imprisoned for 1 year. So there are some details that are maybe confusing, some details that we may have heard, inshallah, in tonight's lecture. I will go through the journey of the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and how this holy head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam ended up in the lap of his 3-year-old daughter. And how when this 3-year-old daughter of Imam al-Hussein, after seeing her head, returns back to her Lord. Firstly, when it comes to the beheading of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we know that all the heads were beheaded on the day of Ashura. Yet the only head that was cut while the person was alive was the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. As in, yes, the head of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, the head of Ali al-Akbar, al-Qasim, even the head of the 6-month infant, Ali al-Asghar, or Abdullah al-Radi', was also cut and placed on a spear. As in, after the battle, Umar ibn Sa'd ordered that his army go forward and find the martyrs on the plains of Karbala and behead them. Why do I mention this? As in, when you behead someone that's already dead, do they feel the pain? Does the body feel anything? No, the body does not feel anything. Yet our master and Imam, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi afdalu salati was salam, as Imam al-Rada mentions to Ibn Shabib, Rayyan Ibn Shabib, Yabna Shabib, in kunta bakiyan li shay. If you want to cry over something, then cry over my grandfather Hussein, for he was beheaded, he was killed just the way an animal, a shat, is killed. Imam alayhi afdalu salati was salam, and I apologize to the Sayyids in this gathering, for this is their grandfather that I mentioned. Imam alayhi salam, Imam al-Rada, mentions in a graphic way that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was killed in this way, just how an animal is sacrificed. And of course, usually when an animal is sacrificed, it's a time of celebration. As in, while Imam al-Hussein was lying there, Zainab alayhi salam, narrations, the Maqatil mention, come out and say, she goes towards the body of Abu Abdullah and she calls out, is there no one here that's a Muslim? You are watching while Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is being killed. And this is when Umar ibn Sa'd, and this line is a powerful line. When he calls out, Inzulu ilayh wa arihuh, go down towards him and put him to rest. Number one, Imam al-Hussein was in so much pain from the injuries that he faced that Umar ibn Sa'd has to say, go down to him and put him to rest. As in, our Imam mentions, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam mentions, ضربة على ضربة, طعنة على طعنة, over 1,000 wounds on the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, that he was in so much pain that he says, go down to him and put him to rest. And Shimr al-La'in goes towards the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. After beheading the holy head of our master, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is placed on a spear, and we have narrations that someone by the name of Khawli is in charge of this head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That it's placed on a spear with the other heads and paraded from city to another city. Now someone comes forward and says, is this normal? As in, someone's head is cut, placed on a spear and paraded from one city to another. No one came forward and said, what are you doing? What's this? This must have been done before. Yes, it was done before. This was the sunnah of Muawiyah, the father of Yazid. The first head to be cut and placed on a spear was someone by the name of Amr ibn Hamaq al-Khuza'i, a companion, Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. And Amir al-Mu'mineen informed him of his killing. This was the first head to be cut in Islamic history and placed on what? A rumuh, a spear, and paraded from one city to another. Imagine the psychological trauma that people have when they see a head on a spear. But this became normalized by Muawiyah and by Ziyad ibn Abi during their time, that when the head of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam was placed on a spear, paraded from one city to another, no one came forward and said, what's this? It was something normal. In fact, Khalid ibn al-Walid had done something similar, maybe not on a spear, but with Malik ibn Nuwayra in the time of the first so-called caliph. He went towards this person, Malik ibn Nuwayra, and he beheaded him and he cooked his head. So this was something that was seen in history before. It wasn't the first time. Yet what makes this time different is that it's the head of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So much so that on the 11th of Muharram, all these heads were placed on a spear and taken, and each tribe had one spear with one head. And interestingly, some maqatil mention that the head of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was not placed on a spear. The head of Al-Abbas was placed on a string, on a head of the horse, and it was dangling from this horse. Who was on this horse? Harmala. Harmala was on this horse. Why did he do this? One, to humiliate Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, to try and humiliate. And of course, to show his beloved sister, Sayeda Zainab, the head. So much so that every time the head of this horse would go down, the head of Al-Abbas would hit the ground. And of course, Harmala was someone that Imam al-Sajjad alayhi afdalus salati wa salam would ask about. Many narrations mention that anytime someone from Iraq would visit Medina, the first question Imam al-Sajjad would ask would be, tell me about Harmala. Is Harmala still alive? You know, when Al-Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, it's a difficult, but these are nights of masa'ib. When Harmala was caught by Mukhtar, Mukhtar asked him, he said, Harmala, what did you do on the day of Ashura? He said, I had 7 arrows that I had with me, prepared with me on the day of Ashura. All of them had poison in them. 4 of them I aimed and I struck, while 3 I missed. He said, tell me about the ones that you struck with. He said, the first, I struck the eyes of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. He said, the second. He said, the second, I struck the 6 months infant of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He said, the third. He said, the third, I struck the chest of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the fourth, I struck Abdullah ibn al-Hasan while he was in the lap of his uncle Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. 4 arrows. Hence why Imam al-Sajjad alayhi afdalus salati wa salam would say, oh Allah, make sure that he tastes the heat and the fire of this life before the fire of the hereafter. These heads were carried towards Kufa, and of course you all know the incidents that took place in Kufa. They reached Kufa on the 12th of Muharram, in which Ibn Ziyad looks at the mountain of patience, Sayeda Zainab, and asks her, what do you say to what Allah has done to you and your brothers? And she responds by saying, I see nothing but beauty. Ma ra'aytu illa jameel. And he pokes the head of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. So much so that one of the companions of Rasulullah, Anas ibn Malik, stands up and says, what are you doing? By Allah, I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam kiss those same lips that you're poking with your stick. After a few days while in Kufa, and Yazid sending his envoys to tell Ibn Ziyad that I want the head to what? To reach Sham. After some narrations mention 7 days, they make their way towards Sham. Some mention 18th of the month of Muharram. Others say the 19th of the month of Muharram. They make their way. towards Damascus, and they reach Damascus on the 1st of Safar, the 1st of the month of Safar. The journey takes approximately 11 or 12 days. On the 1st of Safar, when they reach, we have narrations that mention that Sahel ibn Sa'd, who is a companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, says, I entered Damascus on the 1st of Safar. When I entered, I saw celebrations. It wasn't normal. I said, هل لأهل الشام عيد? Is there for the people of Sham a Eid that I do not know about? What's this celebration? He says, I noticed prisoners, captives in chains. Narrations mention that they were not placed in normal chains. Again, I'm going into details just to try and make you understand the masa'ib that the Ahlul Bayt went through. The chains that they were put through in are called a jama'. What's this chain? It's one long chain that goes from the neck towards the hand, towards the feet that they are placed in. One by one, they would be placed in these chains, including our Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, as well as his son Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. Sometimes we forget to mention that Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi afdal salatu wasalam was probably 3 or 4 years old. Imagine the trauma a child has to go through, seeing the head of his grandfather, seeing his aunties, his sisters, his cousins all being hit and whipped in front of him. And so why sometimes we do not, or we underestimate the role of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, who is known as someone that what? Baqar al-ilma. Someone that opened up knowledge. After what? After going through so much trials and tragedies at a young age. It did not affect Imam Muhammad al-Baqir that later on he came forward and became known as Baqir al-Ulum. He was in chains. Sayeda Ruqaya was in chains. Sakinah was in chains. Sayeda Zainab alayha salam. They're all in chains. Kulthum mentions, when we entered Sham on the 1st of the month of Safar, we were left to stand outside Al-Jami' al-Amawi, the palace, the Umayyad palace, for over, some narrations mention 12 hours in the sun. So much so that the skin from our faces started to peel. Why? So Yazid alayhi la'natullah prepared Sham for celebration. He wanted to decorate the city while they were waiting outside, the daughters of Rasulullah, the daughters of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, waiting outside. Yazid prepared Sham for celebration. A caller would call out and say, O people of Sham, take revenge on the killers of your forefathers. That's why Yazid, when they come in and he sees the head, he says, Layta ashyakhi bi badrin shahidu. I wish my grandparents, my forefathers, in what? In Badr had noticed. This is revenge for Badr. فلا وحي نزل ولا جاء خبر. There's no wahi. There's no revelation. This revelation of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is all fake. They come into the palace with the heads, the holy heads of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Ali al-Akbar. Imagine that every mother, including Rabab, has to see the head of their sons on a spear. Again, this is from my own understanding. A head of a 6-month infant is difficult to be placed maybe on a spear. It's probably placed on an arrow. And these mothers had to see the heads of their loved ones on spears. Now the question comes forward, why are there different narrations about the burial of the head? Some say that Yazid asked that they take these heads and they take them back to Medina and they bury them next to the grave of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. This is mentioned in some of the Ahl Sunnah traditions, that Yazid, after finding out the crimes of Ibn Ziyad, he said, these heads, take them and bury them in Medina next to the mother of Hussein. This narration we reject because we say that, number one, Yazid did not feel bad or feel remorse for the killing of Imam al-Hussein. No, he felt no remorse whatsoever. And this is a tradition that wants to make maybe Yazid look good. Number two, we do not know where the grave of Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam is for us to say that the heads are buried next to the grave of Fatima al-Zahra, as in the symbol of the oppression of Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. Till today, those that come forward and maybe say Fatima alayha salam was not oppressed, whether they are from the Shias or they are from the outside the Shias, till today, a symbol of her oppression. Yes, okay, you may say the rib is not broken, this did not happen. Okay, say whatever you like to say. Yet a symbol of her oppression, of her dhulm, that till today we do not know where the grave of the daughter of Rasulullah is. So we reject this narration. Some come forward and say, no, it's buried in Sham because Yazid did not want to let the heads return. He wanted to parade them more, and he left them and buried them in Sham. We also reject this narration. Why? Because as I mentioned, Al-Sharif Al-Murtada mentions that in his Al-Rasail, he mentions, as well as Shaykh Al-Saduq also mentions, that after the sermon of Imam Al-Sajjad alayhi salam and the sermon of Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam, it had such an effect on the people of Sham. And Yazid felt that there would be now a revolution against him. Because the sermon of Sayyida Zainab and the sermon of Imam Sajjad, those that did not know who these heads belonged to, now they knew that this is the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Yazid now wanted what? He thought there'd be a fitna against him. The people would rise up against him. So he sent Imam al-Sajjad as well as Sayyida Zainab straight away back to wherever they want to go. He asked them, what do you want? Please just leave, because you're going to cause me a problem here. And we say this must be the case. One, because of obviously scholars like Sharif al-Murtada and al-Saduq mentioned this. Two, we always mention the sermon of Sayyida Zainab and Imam al-Sajjad. If they have no effect on the people, why would Yazid keep them there, number one? And why would Yazid keep the head? It must have had an effect on the people. It must have had an effect on what? On Yazid, for him to say, go back. And he comes forward and he says to Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, that's what can I do for you? What can I return to you that has been taken? And of course it's as if the family of Rasulullah say, what you've taken you can never return. The 6 months infant, علي الأكبر أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا إلى رسول الله القال. You can never return these people back to us. The damage is done. But we request two things. The first thing we request is that you have taken some items from the tents. When Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was killed, Umar ibn Sa'd called out, burn the tents of Imam al-Hussein. They came to burn the tents. As they were burning the tents, they started to loot the tents. Any belongings that were in the tents, they would take. We have some stories that earrings of young children were pulled. We have stories that mention some children, as they were running, were trampled by the hooves of the horses. In some narrations, over 15 children were killed on the day of Ashura. Just on the day of Ashura. How? Either from burning or by being trampled by the horses of the hooves. Some items were looted. Imam al-Sajjad tells him, some of these items belong to our mother Fatima. We want them back. Yazid said, very well. The second thing that we want is we want the heads of our beloved. The heads of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the heads of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Ali al-Akbar, all these heads, we want them returned. And of course, Yazid agreed, and he said, you can have the heads back. Other locations like Halab and the famous story of the Christian monk who took the head of Imam al-Hussein, some mention he drew the head, Others mentioned he spoke and conversed with the head, because there are many karamat of the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. There is mu'jiza and there is karama that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants to those chosen people. And the head, the holy head of Imam al-Hussein had many karamat. One of these karamat, for example, is this conversation that took place between the monk and between Imam al-Hussein's head. Two, another karama is that the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam used to recite verses while on a spear from Surah Al-Kahf. Three, it is mentioned because as they were going through the journey from Kufa to Sham, they stopped 26 times. 26 stations they stopped at. These stations are maqamat, like a maqam known in Bab al-Saghir in Damascus. This is a maqam, not a burial site. That's where the confusion sometimes is. That a maqam is what? Some people come forward and say this is the burial site. No, a maqam is a station. Another maqam is Masjid al-Hannana. If you go to the holy city of Najaf and you go and visit the shrine of Kumail, next to the shrine of Kumail there's a mosque known as Masjid al-Hannana. Masjid al-Hannana was given the name Hannana because of what? Because of the word wailing. When did this happen? Two instances. The first instance when Imam Ali alayhi salam was being buried from Kufa to Sham, this location, the trees and the area, they heard sounds of wailing. That is as if the trees were crying of the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. The second time is when the family of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the wives and the daughters of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam stayed in this area. This is also another miqat, another location, another station. Another karama of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is during these stations, one of these stations, they place the spear in the ground, in the sand, for example. So it stays still while the soldiers rest. The likes of Khawli and others. You know, Khawli took the head of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to his home when he entered Kufa. And he placed the head in an oven. His wife came forward and says, I saw Noor from the sky come all the way down towards my oven. I went to Khawli, who's her husband. I said, what's in the oven? Something's different inside our house. He said, it's the head of the grandson of Rasulullah. Look how normal it is for him to say that I brought the head back home. She tells him, how dare you bring the holiest of heads back here. So while Khawli, for example, is put the head in the ground to rest, Shimr, for example, orders that let's continue in our journey. Khawli comes to pick up the spear. He cannot pick it up. He wants to move the spear. He cannot move the spear. Others come to try and move it. The spear does not move. They come towards Imam al-Sajjad. They say, Ali ibn al-Hussein, the head of the spear that has the head of your father is not moving. Come and tell us what's wrong. Help us. Maybe you have the answer. Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein al-Sajjad alayhi afdalu salatu wa salam mentions that one of the daughters of my father is missing. One of my sisters is missing. So the head will not move until this daughter returns. They say, how are we going to find her? He says, Imam al-Sajjad mentions that look at the eyes of my father. Look at where he looks, where the eyes of my father look towards, and know that the daughter is over there. These are some of the karamat that took place with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam's head. So as I mentioned, they reach Sham on the 1st of Safar. Now there are different narrations. Some mention a week, others say no, 10 days they stayed in Sham. And after the sermon of Imam al-Sajjad, that famous sermon in which he says, أيها الناس أعطينا ستا وفضلنا بسبع أعطينا العلم والحلم والسماحة والفصاحة والشجاعة والمحبة في قلوب المؤمنين وفضلنا بأن منا المختار النبي محمد ومنا الصديق ومنا الطيار ومنا أسد الله وأسد رسوله ومنا سبطي هذه الأمة ومنا مهدي هذه الأمة. من عرفني فقد عرفني ومن لم يعرفني أنبأته حسبي ونسبي. We've been granted 6 merits. We have wisdom and knowledge and forbearance and bravery and eloquence and the love in the hearts of the believers. And we have been granted 7 merits, that from us is the Holy Prophet, and from us is the As-Siddiq. Here he means Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. And from us is Ja'far al-Tayyar. And from us is Hamza, who is known as Asadullah. And from us is Sibtay hadhihi al-Ummah, Al-Hasani wal-Hussain. And from us is the Mahdi of this Ummah. Whoever knows me, and whoever does not know me, I will let them know who I am. أنا ابن مكة ومنى أنا ابن زمزم والصفا أنا ابن من حمل على أركان. I am the one who carried the holy stone and placed it in the Kaaba. I am the son of Mecca and Mina. I am the son of Safa and Zamzam, until he mentions all these lines, until he says أنا ابن محمد المصطفى أنا ابن علي المرتضى أنا ابن من ضرب خراطيم الخلق حتى قالوا لا إله إلا الله أنا ابن من ضرب بين يدي رسول الله بسيفين وطعن برمحين وهاجر الهجرتين وصلى القبلتين وبايع البيعتين وقاتل ببدر وحنين ولم يكفر بالله طرفة عين. He mentions all of this. Then he mentions, I am the son who was killed next to the Furat, thirsty. And he points towards the head of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. And that head of Imam al-Hussain becomes the symbol to show that this grandson of Rasulullah was killed in an oppressive way by this tyrant Yazid. Hence why Yazid notices that there is now what? There's going to be a revolution against him. So he asks Imam al-Sajjad to leave, and they return towards Karbala, and they reach Karbala on the 20th of Safar, which coincides with also Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari reaching Karbala. And this is known as the day of Arba'een, in which today, alhamdulillah, millions of people go towards the holy shrine of Imam al-Hussain to renew their allegiance with Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam on the day the head was returned to the body. But this holy head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam also witnessed many masa'ib, witnessed many tragedies. One of those masa'ib is mentioned on a night like this. Some narrations mention the 3rd of Safar, others mention the 5th of Safar, with the daughter of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain. This daughter has gone through a lot. She's first of all left Medina and left her beloved sister Fatima al-Alila. So already she misses her sister. She's gone on to this journey thinking that it's a road trip maybe. She's going on a trip with her father. She is attached to her father so much that many narrations mention she would always sleep on the chest of her father. For 40 days or for 30 days she's without her father. Every day she comes and asks her auntie Zainab, Amma Zainab, where is my father Hussein? And it's as if her auntie would say, he's gone on a long trip, my beloved. She keeps asking. This same daughter on the day of Ashura, Hamid ibn Muslim narrates, I saw her running from tent to tent, yes, and her dress was caught on fire. I went towards her, I say, oh daughter, oh young girl, what's wrong? Let me turn away the fire from your dress. She says, Ya Shaykh, anta ma'ana am alayna? Are you with us or are you against us? This Hamid ibn Muslim narrates, he says to her, I am neither against or with you. What can I do for you? She says, Ya Shaykh, هل قرأت القرآن? I said, yes, I have read the Quran. She said, have you read the verse, وَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ? Do not hurt the orphan. I said, yes, I have heard this verse. I have read it. She says to him, Ana yatimatul Hussein, I am the orphan of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. She goes through a trip always asking about her father, Amma Zainab. Where is my father Hussein? Amma Zainab, why are they hitting me? Amma Zainab, why am I in chains? My dear brothers, my dear sisters, those of you that have daughters, usually if a daughter goes through any trouble, if she is hurt, if she is harmed, what takes place? She waits for her father, yes? Why? So when her father comes, she can complain to her father. She can say, Father, this person hurt me, this person, he hit me, this person said this about me. Every day she asks about her father until an evening like this when they are sent to the Karbala in Sham. When they are sent to the ruins in Sham, she falls asleep. Suddenly she wakes up crying. She calls out, Aina Abi al-Hussein? Where is my father, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? Ruqaya, what's wrong? Why do you ask about your father, Hussein alayhi salam? She says, I saw my father, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. I saw him in a dream. He came to me and he said to me, Ruqayya, come and join me. You will be near me very soon. I want my father Hussein. Where is my father Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? The women all started to cry. All the children woke up, started to cry. Their cries reached the palace of Yazid. He called out, what's this noise? They said, it's the daughter of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Why is she crying? She has woken up asking for her father. She wants to see her father, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Yazid says, take the head of her father towards her. They bring a plate covered. She looks towards the plate. She calls out, I do not want any food. I want to see my father.
أم زينب لما الأعداء حرقوا الخيام وجهي احترق. لما حرقوا الخيام كنت خايفة أركض بين النار. ثوبي احترق وجه الرجال طف النار من ثوبي وقال لا تخافين. أنا قلت عندك مي؟ أنا كلش عطشانة. وبعدين جرت راجي من اذاني. أم زينب عندي دم ويوجعني. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
والله يا والدي والله ضيمة أنا صير من صغري يتيمة. أثار الأبو يا ناس خيمة. They removed the cloth from the holy head of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. She screams out, أبتاه من الذي خضبك بدمائك؟ أبتاه من الذي قطع رأسك؟ Father, who did this to you? أبتاه من الذي أيتمني على صغر سني؟ أبتاه من لليتيم؟ Ruqayya's been waiting all this time. Why? Because she wants her father to return so she can complain to him. Yes, those fathers understand when you come home and your daughter comes towards you to complain. Ruqayya comes forward to complain. She does not complain. She starts saying, Father, who cut your head? Father, why is there blood on your face? Father, why are your teeth broken? Father Aba Abdullah, who did this to you, my beloved father, who made me an orphan? It's as if she says, كشفت راس ابوها ودنت يمه بلهفة شبقته وقامت تشمه بلهفة شبقته وقامت تشمه تقل غيبتك طالت علي يا ابويا تقل يا بدر ليلي وسلوتي يا ابويا لوعوا بالصوت عمتي وشتموا جدي وشتموا جدي حامل حمية يا ابويا اش كثر عقبك لوعوني لوعوني اش كثر بالصوت دقوا علمتوني. She starts saying, Father, they pulled off my earrings. Father, look at the chains around my small hands. Father, look at my shoulders. They whipped me with chains. Abata, Abata, Abata. She starts to cry and cry and cry. Then she hugs the head of her father. الطفلة شبقت راس أبوها وغمض شفنها وزينب نايم على الراس ظنها. She hugs the head of her father. Zainab thinks that Ruqaya has fallen asleep. العليل يقلها عما انقطع ظنها على نحر الولي وافتها المنية. عم زينب عم زينب. Imam al-Sajjad stands up, says عم زينب عم زينب, remove the head, remove my sister Ruqaya from the head of my father, for she has returned to her Lord. Narrations mention that the woman starts to cry, but Zainab has to bury another body. Yes, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam had to bury the body of Aba Abdullah, the body of Ali al-Akbar, the body of Abu al-Fadl, even the body of that 6 months infant. He placed it on the chest of Aba Abdullah. This time it was Zainab's turn. Zainab has to bury Ruqaya. She takes her towards this woman. She tells her, watch the body of Ruqaya. This woman's about to watch the body of Ruqaya. She comes out and she says, I will not touch her body. Why do you not touch her body? This girl, was she sick or was she ill, or did she have some sort of disease? Why? Her body is all purple and red. This is when Zainab says she was whipped by Shimir and by Harmala. They bury this 3 years old daughter of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain in Sham, and they return with the holy head of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain towards Karbala. When they reach the intersection between Karbala and Medina, Imam al-Sajjad says, Amma Zainab, Amma, where shall we go towards? Towards Medina or towards Karbala? It's as if Zainab says, if I go towards Medina, who do I have left in Medina? Take me towards Karbala. Take me towards my beloved Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain. For 40 days I have missed him. I used to see him every day. Those sisters that have brothers, they understand the relationship you have with your older brother, your protector. You want to always see him every day. They go towards Karbala. As soon as Zainab alayhi salam reaches Karbala, she throws herself on towards the grave of Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain. Habibi ya Hussain. It's as if Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam wants to listen to the tragedies of Zainab. Yet he asks Zainab one question, Zainab, where is my beloved Ruqaya? Where is my 3-year-old Ruqaya? Why has she not returned with you? Someone else who asks about Ruqaya, you know who? Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. رقية حر قلبي سيدتي يا صاحب الزمان. These words upset you. أبا الفضل العباس. We end with the مصيبة of Al-Abbas. أبا الفضل العباس, when he left on the day of Ashura, he did not bid farewell to Zainab or Ruqayya. Every time on the day of Ashura, the Maqatil say this, yes, that every time someone came to leave, they would bid farewell to their mother, they would bid farewell to Zainab, Ali al-Akbar, Al-Qasim. The only one that did not bid farewell to Zainab and Ruqayya was Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Abbas was meant to go and return with some water. It's as if the poet says, Ruqayya, when she was waiting for the water, the children would be crying around her, calling out, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. She would say to them, don't cry out, Ammu Abbas is coming back with water. He promised me he would return with water. That's why Abbas did not want to return. He says to his brother, leave me next to the Furat. When Imam Al-Hussain returned with his hands on his back, the first to come forward was Ruqayya. She says, Abatah, Aba Abdullah, I do not want water anymore. I want to ask about my uncle Abbas. يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشفي صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة. With these tears, raise your hands in dua. We are in the month of Safar, Laylat al-Jum'ah, Laylat istijabat al-Dua, inshaAllah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of the awaited Savior. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all our hajat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure all those marids, all those sick and ill people بحق مريض Karbala, Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us all our hajat بحق Sayeda Ruqaya. She is no doubt a door to our hajat. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ziyarah of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam في الدنيا وشفاعة الحسين عليه السلام في الآخرة. We recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all our marhumeen, the marhumeen of the organizers of this majlis, and Al-Marhum Ayatullah Al-Udma Al-Sayyid Abu Al-Qasim Al-Khoi and his shuhada sons, and for all our marhumeen Al-Fatiha. Before that, a loud salawat.
Please rise in honor of Sayeda Ruqayya alayhi salam and come as far forward as you can to the minbar. Please come as far forward as you can to the minbar as we remember the heartfelt tragedy of Sayeda Ruqayya alayhi salam. Please respond with your words and your latum and connect to Sayeda Ruqayya alayhi salam. يا حسين ومصابة ويا حسين ومصابة
ما شاء الله صوتك زينبتي وين ويتنادي ويا حسين يا ذكرك بطرف لساني وحاشاك لليوم الوعد تنساني وزينبتي وين ويتنادي يا Where are you? I need you, I'm all alone, Father. Where are you? I need you, I'm all alone, Father. My life's been meaningless since you've been gone, Father. If only you saw to me what they done, Father. Where are you? I need you, I'm all alone, Father. My life's been meaningless since you've been gone, Father. If only to me you saw what they done, Father. What I've been through, only Allah, He knows. My shoulders bruised, and now to Sham we go. Father, I need you. Before my heart it slows. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. Where's your voices? Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. Where are you? I need you, I'm all alone, Father. My life's been meaningless since you've been gone, Father. If only you saw to me what they done, Father. What I've been through, only Allah, He knows. My shoulders bruised, and now to Sham we go. Father, I need you. Before my heart it slows. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. The whips and the pain of the scorching heat, Father. The whips and the pain of the scorching heat, Father. When they torched all our tents, I burnt my feet, Father. I'll complain to Fatima when we meet, Father. The whips and the pain of the scorching heat, Father. When they torched all our tents, I burnt my feet, Father. I'll complain to Fatima when we meet, Father. I beg and plead, I'm filled with so much fear. I cry and bleed. They pulled it from my ear. I need your lead. Father, I want you here. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. I close my eyes in pain and wonder why, Father. I close my eyes in pain and wonder why, Father. I look above and see your head raised high, Father. I look at Zainab and it makes me cry, Father. I try in vain to stop my tears flowing in whips and chains. My bruises now showing in so much pain. Zainab's hurt still growing. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. صوتك ما شاء الله يا رقي. In Sham I sleep, my bruises for a bed, Father. In Sham I sleep, my bruises for a bed, Father. I cry out loud and they bring me your head, Father. In Sham I sleep, my bruises for a bed, Father. I cry out loud and they bring me your head, Father. I've lost all my will, I long to be dead, Father. I close my eyes, I see you next to me. This life has lied. Oh Father, rescue me and hold me tight. It's where I long to be. Ya Ruqaya, صوتك ما شاء الله. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. In Sham I sleep, my bruises for a bed, Father. I cry out loud and they bring me your head, Father. I've lost all my will, I long to be dead, Father. I close my eyes, I see you next to me. This life has lied. Oh Father, rescue me and hold me tight. It's where I long to be. I close my eyes, I see you next to me. This life has lied. Oh Father, rescue me and hold me tight. It's where I long to be. Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya, Ya Ruqaya. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifinaik. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبي الفضل العباس واخته زينب جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. إلهي بمريض كربلاء زين العابدين يا رب عافي وشافي جميع المرضى على خص من أوصانا بالدعاء يا الله. إلهي بالحسين تقبل منا من مؤسسي هذا المجلس بأحسن قبول يا الله. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك، جنبنا معاصيك، اجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وعوانه ومن الذابين عنه من المستشهدين بين يدي يا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن الحسن صلواتك في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وأرواح الحاضرين والجامعين والمركز وأرواح المؤسسين لهذا المجلس نهدي لهم ثواب صورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and